Aldebaran. Moon day. No, it's not a moon day anymore. It's actually a Venus night. So let's welcome Venus. And it's Mercury hour with Mercury Aldebaran, just to spice it up and make it more fun. I'm gonna bring in some talismans to the mix. And this is gonna be a vloggy vlog. What's on the menu? I want to do Donald Trump and Elon Musk's synastry and sit. I want to take a look at Germany's chart. Now let me break it down to you. As I was driving from one place to another today, I wasn't driving, I was in the passenger seat. Not because I'm a scrub, but because drivers in Israel are crazy. I don't have a driving license here. So first of all, let's set some good intentions for this with the third lunar mentioned by Helwas Astro. All dividends are accepted in beats of joy and some equity. And speaking of equity, sphere and sundry, open doors. Mercury, open doors. And I'm called in to do a little bit of an Inuit symbol, so you don't see the cultural appropriation here. Some reverence to Sedna and curation of Sedna in Gemini. And as I was, yeah, I like that. I like that Mercury buzz thingy, but I want a Venus. I want a Venus. I need a Venus. So while we try to see which Venus will come up. Oh, yeah. Venus in Cancer. So I get super moody. And I love that. So, Venus in Cancer by Helwas Astro. And the other thing, I was seeing 3 yellow flags for the kidnapped, whatever dumb fucker to do. Like, if you really want to get at the kidnapped people, do the satanic ritual abuse survivors, listen to survivors, bingo expandable children caves, start gathering up groups, armed weapons, and dig them up, okay? Like, they're underneath any emergency center, and let's good vibes to alchemize anything sent our way to make it good luck. So we're being positive today. And truly verstigen. That's the thing. But the thing is that I was seeing these flags, and I was saying, oh, this is like a yellow flag. Then there's the red flag, and then there's a black flag. So I was like, yellow, red, black. So later today, I would feel like Ruth's energy, and then he was about to meet Olaf Scholz in Berlin. And immediately that brought me back to the video when I looked at the various Germany charts, and I'm like, Germany's getting weaponized. That was about a year and a half ago. Germany's getting weaponized. Is it going to be Nazi again? And I began to record something, but I got something wrong around the parliament. They actually did not legalize pedophilia. But there's something weird about it that I want to address as well. So there's a lot on the menu. And the funny thing, I watched the Nato episode. The Nato episode. It is an episode. I mean, I at this point, whether you call it association or whatnot, I just like, this is a show and this is an episode. So I watched the episode and they're talking about trust. So this is a good time to bring in curation for Sedna, some lightness, some Aldebaran vibe, Archangel Michael. And let's begin. So first on the menu, I will be looking at Germany's chart. I want to do something fun. And we cannot do something fun without looking at a synastry of Trump and that's not what I asked. This is so okay. My Astro database, and we're going to look at the synastry and a little bit. You know what? I'll begin with the composite, because Donald Trump and Elon Musk has one interesting composite. That if I would see such a composite, I would just look at the blues and I would say, there's a lot of protection for this composite. And I watched a little episode about the relations between Trump and Musk, and apparently they were not. It's like a rom-com. Okay, me being penalized by Ruta Energies for speaking first about Trump and Musk. Um, in Ordnung, please. So this is, well, look at this. Bisextile, which is this funny triangles we see here, is a very protective aspect. So just to have one of these in your synastry or composite can really help to protect your relationships. And here we have uh, just a triple, quadruple bisextile. It's all in the blue, which is almost bizarre. Okay, I don't run into such composites every day. So while the synastry could have some problems, they each have sun in each other's 12th house. And in my experience with having the sun in my 12th house, I've had this experience. I actually had a decade-long friendship with that aspect. It's not an easy aspect. You have to take it slow. Okay, the sun person it's the climate of the attic, as Jewel calls it, and the sun person is just running up the attic and doing things and playing with stuff and so on. And the 12th house person is like, that's the deepest parts of your psyche. So it's both exciting to rediscover yourself and like somebody puts a flashlight and you don't know what's behind the flashlight. Okay, what like who's that person behind the flashlight in it's not actually in your face but actually in the back of your mind, and that can create a tremendous amount of attraction, actually a tremendous amount of drawing into see for each other. And for the sun person it can feel like I am the invisible seer. So it can be both frustrating and exciting at the same time, because you get to see a side of somebody that they don't get to see often. And you get to have a role in somebody's life that can be incredibly meaningful and incredibly liberating. Okay, because if you get them to see that, you hold the value of, they know themselves better with you. Okay, I had a decade-long friendship with that aspect, and it takes a personality to have luminary in your 12th. But I enjoyed rediscovering myself. Okay, I enjoyed being aware of these things that I wasn't aware of, and had a radical acceptance towards what I was seeing, and that is incredibly important. Um, so that can bring greater self-awareness, self-acceptance. It can also bring other things. You have to take a look at what aspects are there. So having Trump and Musk having sun in each other's 12th house for the synastry is definitely, they are showing each other, or at least trying to show each other, what they don't know about themselves. And there's a tremendous mutual fascination, even if it began as a quarrel. First of all, Trump was at Elon Musk's 12th house. Um, I don't even, just simply because of the astrology, and 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 Musk was not so in the beginning willing to comply or pay attention to Trump. And then um, Musk was in Trump's 12th house, which gave the idea that Trump was not immediately seeing the value in Elon Musk. He was like, he's doing EVs, cars that don't even work, rockets that don't even fly. Okay, he wasn't seeing substance in the traditional real estate way that he's used to seeing substances. And it took him a while to understand what Musk is doing, and how they are actually one of the most compatible couples in the world right now. Okay, you really cannot beat that compatibility. Um, this is something that there are problems with this chart. Okay, Rahu on the malefic 18th degree, although it's the degree of exaltation of the sun, but it's not sun, it's Rahu. Can give us a medical warfare. Okay, it's kind of like it's heading medical warfare wisely, eagerly so. Um, with Mars in Scorpio, perhaps there is a bit of hope to this, to this phase of Scorpio, which is nostalgic but is also Jupiter oriented. Okay, this is the phase of Scorpio that can actually choose something that is in favor of humanity, surprisingly enough. This is just this part, okay? But the medical warfare here is evident. Um, if it's weapon development, rockets development, or colonies on Mars, there is a flavor of we can make this toxic together and profit off of that. I'm not saying that they are going to do that. I'm not saying to what level that affects their relations, but it's also affecting for their own internal self, especially for the bloodstream. So it's something the board should be aware of. Um, the together that can malefically affect their bloodstream, um, and yes, and iron levels. Okay, so some maybe some toxicity in the blood. Um, that they have to be aware of, especially for I think about the chips in the brain that Musk is doing, and I think I told about how humbled I was when I actually worked with people who have PTSD and CPTSD and saw that it wasn't working like I thought that it would work. Because I literally had this idea when I read about chaos. The first thing I thought about, hey, let's regulate the brain, okay? And my bestie back then very wisely told me that's going people gonna go nuts. And I'm like, well, everything backfires in a bit. That's the brain. I wasn't seeing straight, and I'm humbled because I could easily be Elon Musk there. Like if that was me, I could easily let's go for that. I'll put a chip into my brain, and you can get poison in your blood that way. Okay, so even if the chip is operating correctly, then you can get your blood poisoned. So this is something I wasn't thinking about, like toxicity of metals. That's something that the board should be wary of. Then there is this 11th degree midheaven, which is degree of electricity. It's kind of a Uranian degree. It's also degree of suicide. Um, and it is in a Venus sign with Venus in the 12th house, degree 7 in Cancer, and Mercury in the 12th house in degree 11. So technology can go off. I know there was a couple of launches of SpaceX that went a little bit, off, and that composite can bring that. So Venus is in the 12th house here. Would definitely need kind of like I know Sirius would be a good planet for Musk and for this industry as well, because this is the closest fixed star to his ascendant and Mercury. And that would be appropriate to try and work with. Andromeda would be a must for this combo. So very, very, very highly protected composite. Okay, Moon Neptune. Okay, Moon Neptune. My experience with the Moon Neptune synastry. They can be both miraculous healing and intense ideation. They can be manifestation qualities. It's a hard aspect. It means that you dwell with the longing and the void, and then a miracle appears. Now Neptune is about liquid assets, so this is where Donald Trump could get a little bit more into the void and allow for the technological advancement that Musk brings to liquidate, okay, to become energy that moves and brings energy, and that's requiring a new perception of wealth for Trump that Musk introduces to accommodate for investing in these ideas. And mind you, whoever he has to justify this decision for, that would require something, and that is highly protected with this Mercury in the B6 with Pluto and Lilith Neptune. Um, Lilith Neptune in Scorpio, I don't know how that plays a part, um, but that is something I would pay attention to, because one of the complaints against both Trump and Musk have to do with female fertility, and the entire, they're not to blame for that. It's the hermaphrodite cults that are to blame for that, and they're both born into these cults. So there is a certain requirement and restriction and so on around that. But this is something that if they can come out of, that would bulletproof both their composite is bulletproof, but that would bulletproof their investment, because there's a lot of yin in that chart. There's a lot of yin in that chart, and if I think about it energetically, okay, if I want to make an investment and my big fortune is yin, I want to honor yin. I think about that from my chart. Okay, I have Neptune conjunct in midheaven, and I tended to missing people way before 7th October began. Okay, it was with the Ukraine war, a little bit before that, and and tended to spies, and I tended to whistleblowers, and that investment, okay, that energetic investment in Neptune yielded a lot of miracles, a lot of healing. Okay, there's a lot of things that come up. So one of the things Neptune is actually, you know, don't sleep on the yin. Okay, don't sleep on the yin. Don't sleep on women. Don't. I know there's like he's heading Mars, and Elon's pushing hard for that and so on. Um, but don't sleep on the women, on the relation to women, on the relation to the Lilith. Think about the solitary woman, the woman, the sexpionage, okay? And a lot of these people, they suffer a lot from that, because those are the people that are programmed, they're raped and programmed to plant urges into the brain, okay, for a politician or business people and so on, and then for to sleep with them, and this is from Annika Lucas. Okay, she was raped, programmed to do this as child, and to do mind control as child. Okay, and this is a very intricate situation, because of course the child is not to blame for her rape, right? At the same time, what we must understand is not natural case pedophilia, but it's actually something way more malicious from the point of the handlers that's going on, that's using mind control, and then they basically extorted these politicians. And we've seen Trump, with a picture of Trump with Epstein when he was younger, and we know literally no one is exempt from these settings. So actually doing something innovative to make a pathway for sexpionages to exit satanic ritual abuse. And I think about Eliza, and I think about Jaguar Wright. Okay, if she's stealing the thrones where she has to have sex workers, she doesn't charge for, but she takes information from. But to make a pathway, if you kind of like to clear that, this would clear in the path both for like we will totally get to Mars. We would totally do whatever Musk wants to do on Mars, and it would clear in any sort of blockages to that energy that Neptune represents here, which is giant wealth. Okay. If the wealth is coming from Yin, I give reverence to Yin. Just like when Rahu went, I'm a Mito veteran, okay, but when Rahu went into Mars sign, I knew that this is the time for me to take a step back and to speak up for the veterans, to speak up for the men, to speak up for the people that deal with whatever Mars issues that they deal with, because like that's their time. That's the time for me to give the reverence, and it's definitely been a good decision. So if the wealth is coming here from Neptune and Neptune Lilith, then doing something for these people is something that would yield miraculous, both miraculous healing, but also miraculous wealth. And that is definitely something that I immediately see when I take a look at this synastry. Um, and the moon is still in Venus sign. Okay, the moon is still in Venus sign. The moon is in Libra, an heretic degree Libra. The Neptune brings in a fog, but within that fog there is also very good communication. With Neptune, you might want to remember the concept of housing first and open dialogue, believing the patient to curate psychosis. Why? Because Neptune is so dreamy and detached from reality that you need to have a basis where you're safe to express yourself and you believe your intuitions and your dreams. You understand that you're not just dreaming. This is going to be incredibly important with this type of communication, with this type of duo. It's one of the pillars of all the B6 styles. And bless you. My mother sneezed, which means this is 100% bulletproof the truth. So that's the thing. Um, but this is something that is really important also for people have like a meeting or a setting or just thinking about yourself. You could think that you're being psychotic, especially with the Lilith Neptune, okay? But just sit there and understand you're not imagining. Especially, I know that all our big decision makers, they are also psychically attacked. They are also targeted individuals. So you want to keep in mind that you're not imagining, you're not psychotic. It's not about a pill or a chip. It's about really having the basis and connectedness to a space where, independently of the result, which is the biggest transition for Trump at least, independently of the result, you can surrender the result and receive miracles. And you can just be regardless of even your ability to do something, even your ability to work. This is something that can be considered extreme in elite cults, but is actually yielding. That stuff cures psychosis and it was tried in Finland without any pills. So imagine what it could do for the economy. Imagine what it could do for your business thinking, for your innovation. And imagine, and with Neptune, you do it not for yourself only, but for humanity. Okay? An outer planet is something that you want to invest in for humanity, and that brings in the wealth. So you're not restricting the flow of energy. Um, and this is highly protected. When you do that, it's highly protected. It's working well with Saturn here. Saturn 27 degrees Gemini, conjuncting an heretic degree Sun in Gemini, in the 11th house. So with time, there's definitely, although Sun Saturn conjunction is kind of restrictive, the Neptune gives it, and Moon, they gives it a breath of fresh air, gives it the dream space. You can concentrate in the dream space for a while. And if you Trump I know is an eclipse child, so Trump absolutely has the possibility to break free of the hermaphrodite cults, because all their black magic on you just backfires. I know, I'm a big eclipse child, I've seen that. Okay, people mean one thing, another thing comes out. So, and the more look, let's do it again. Okay, turning all malefic energy sent towards me to benefic energy. This is third lunar mansion, fifth lunar mansion parfum that I made for this purpose. And yeah, that being extremely positive. The only hard aspect in the composite is basically Uranus squaring Jupiter. Again, it's not unmitigatable. Okay, it is not something that I would worry about too much. This might mean you might have crazy and rebellious ideas, and it's so crazy and rebellious. It's kind of like Einstein sitting in front of his quantum discovery and saying, "No, God does not play chess or checkers or whatever." And I think he didn't even say that, but it's kind of like the challenge to believe your own dreams. That's the thing here. Let's go a little bit back to the synastry before we move on. But all in all, wonderful composite. Okay, it's lovely energies. Um, and it's just the thing that is out. Oh, one tip: all hermaphrodites in spirit and watching this. Okay, everything you are asked, there is tremendous energy invested to urge you to do exactly opposite of what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so it's true. Someone lost a father like this, someone lost a husband, someone lost a spouse. Okay, it's true. And you got to keep it. You got to keep it. You understand that the trick is doing for sometimes the opposite of what is it, to try to understand for what the urge is, what are you being required or brainwashed or extorted to do, and how can you trick your way out of it. I think Donald Trump has a lot of the ability to do so, both because he's Eclipse child, but also because he's so mercurial. So the trick is, it's like they try to urge me. Okay, for example, for me, they tried to recruit me to MK Ultra. They tortured me, mind control, this, rape that they do to mind control, all these things. Even like the like it was like an electrocution, but it was from afar. And I have this value of willing consent. Okay, I learned about sex positive sexuality, even in self pleasure, and but I knew that for me, I don't have sex without love. No. But for me, if I go back into my body and say, what do I like? What do I this? What do I that? What do I that? So what was created is actually me thinking, okay, well, what's this energy they're trying to connect me with? What's going on there? And then creating genuine value. So instead of espionage or being mind controlled or mind controlling, which is where very likely where they try to get me to be, which is an illusion of power because you don't actually know what you're doing and why you're doing this for. Um, I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Okay, so that's something that being a pre-eclipse child that was raised outside of the cult, that was a privilege that I facilitate. And the more you can do that, okay, even if you're hermaphrodites, or in general people, okay, the more you can do that, the more, especially when it comes to reconnecting with your energy and not going to the detached, to the sex without love, to all those things. I know that there can be addictions around that, but bare feet on the soil, okay, and an opening heart chakra whenever it's possible. Sometimes it's not immediate. Can facilitate that a lot, and removing shame about talking about these things. So that is something that I think can reintegrate a lot of things that have been lost in the training of hermaphrodites, and reinstate sovereignty, okay, the inner sovereignty. Um, so that is another thing that comes up. Now let's take a look a little bit at the synastry. So there's the sun in Shadow's 12th house, which I talked about. In terms of Ra, okay, Musk has Ra in Donald Trump's 12th house, which I have it in a colleague's chart, and I think that they would probably testify it's incredibly annoying or heightenedly, this is where Ra is considered a malefic. This is the head of the dragon that was cut from the tail. This is where you're just eating and eating and eating and eating and eating and eating and never satiated, okay? So you think about you're in somebody's attic and you just want to roam around. Compulsively, and you cannot stop yourself, okay? Elon has this in my 12th house. With Mars. Fortunately, Mars is not a malefic out of sect for me, but it's ruled by malefic out of sect for in the 12th house that for me is ruled by Mars again. But the thing is that this is where you're just eager to, you're in the back of the mind of somebody's psyche, and you're just eager to roam around and see what's in there, okay? More so than any other planet. And that could be particularly annoying for Trump. Whereas Trump Rahu, which is the same as mine, is Oh no, Trump's Rahu is in Musk's 12th house. So everything I said in reverse. Everything I said is in reverse. Musk's Rahu is in Trump's 7th house with Mars. So that can be eager to form either a partnership or an enmity. And they had a huge, like, it became like a rom-com. It began with a huge conflict and a lot of battles and a lot of bickering. And then it turned into this magnificent, where the minute they embraced the composite, it kind of like, poof. That sticks. Okay, that sticks. And for a very good reason. Um, but what Musk remediates with his Rahu and Mars is the intense opposition that Trump has between his Rahu and Ketu. And I need to say that again because it's the same Rahu and Ketu as mine. Okay? Mars is the link between where the soul has been to where the soul is going. Musk is the link. Okay, so this is where, my God, and I have same round cat. Okay, it's different degrees, but it's kind of like it will still be the same aspect. I need to, I need to take a breather on this. Like, I need to meditate on this, like, for real, for real. As for moon compatibility, energy coming from Musk. For Trump, this one is very important because he has a full moon with Rahu Ketu. Okay, so that creates a situation. I'm not going to get into the more personal details about that, but that creates a situation where Musk is going is remediative for any conflict of perception Trump has. Okay. And also Musk is holding the sextile of Sun and Moon. And the sextile of Sun and Moon, if Trump is holding the full moon, Musk is holding the sextile of Sun and Moon. Now, when it comes to Navamsha, that I would need to look at that chart again. Okay, I just don't want to take like all the entire time on this because it's just endless thing. And look at that Lilith Neptune. Okay, it's already symbolizing to us that these two need to get out of the extortion of the sexpionage and the expendable children. Lilith Neptune is sexpionage. Simply put, Lilith Neptune, sexpionage. Okay? The only reason I managed to get out of being sexpionage, very likely, is because what I told about will and consent, but I have Pallas Athena with Lilith in Pisces. Lilith Pisces is par excellence. Okay, they will try to recognize espionage, but Pallas Athena is like, no, I'm a feminist. And the type of feminist that is not like, oh, I want to extort men because no, I want the will and consent. Okay, the Venus in Taurus stuff. So that's the thing that was like, every time they try to like, no, I speak, I expose, I this, I that, and we need to change. And in general, okay, for all that is not giving us correct information, it's not correct intelligence. I don't think I'm renewing anything to anyone. It's giving us more noise than any omens, and that's for a reason. Okay, it's meant to draw confusion and have everybody extorted by everybody, nobody knowing what's going up. But this is not a double-blind randomized control test. This is just dumb fuckery, and that needs to end for both men and women. And two spirits. So that is the Lilith Neptune. Okay, for the Lilith Neptune here. And here is squaring the synastry. She's squaring with Mars for Trump. But the composite is remediating that. This could be, by the way, that both of these guys would try to extort each other by whatever films they have with sexpionages. I said what I said. I said what I said. So that's the thing. Wow. So now let's go to Germany. And Germany has a lot of charts. And I already did once upon a time the natal charts for Germany, and they're numerous. So let's begin with one from Astro Team. Yeah, taking a little bit of a while, and while it's taking a little bit of a while, we are at the times of both the French Revolution, very very soon, just from now. Okay, November 19th, Pluto ingresses into Aquarius. I made a lovely song about this, or remix of songs about this, with the Danab Algedy music. The Danab Algedy is not mine, but the vocals are. And so, Germany. Ascendant Uranus Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn. It's like, how do I say Ubermensch without Aries? And Saturn, the ruler in the 7th house in the first degree of Cancer. How do I say a peoples of Ubermensch without Aries? Is that it's kind of like if you had to have in mathematics, okay, if you want to have one expression and you want to express it in terms of another expression, that would be the correct way to say Ubermensch, the nation or the people of Ubermensch. Okay, the superhumans, the super technological futuristic. Jupiteranus on an ascendant of a nation ruled by Saturn structure, and Saturn in the sign of the people, with the moon in Aquarius. What can get more technological, the techno homo okay, than that? This is the mathematical expression of why they founded this country. So midheaven with Venus in Scorpio, so to make sure that even the Venusian is highly Martian. And Mars in Sagittarius, but in the 12th house, in the first. Now this is the thing. You would tell me, Shelley, they did not know about Uranus. Should I wait for Pluto to be in Aquarius before I tell you? That's a very dumb assumption. These people knew about Uranus. These people scheduled this Uranus on the ascendant. I said what I said. 1200, what was the date? 1237. How many times have I been telling you that what you call a scientific revolution is actually millennia upon millennia of inventions and stuff that we already know, but we kept, it's kind of like we kept it in the closet, and then whenever we need to impress somebody, think about the 3D advertisement that they have in China. I mean, that's lovely. I mean, it's like a dead van is stopping to kill and torture your neighbors. Like, oh, but look! Yes. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. And good night. And so, that's not to say we don't have. I'll give you scientific advance. I was sitting with the physics doctor and saying, with the chaotic system, we can intervene in the right intervals in the core of the earth and avoid earthquakes. That was my intention. And he was sitting. He was not He was not white colored skin. It was not black. It was kind of like darker skin, and he was going white on me, and I didn't understand why. But the thing is that climate engineering have existed for a couple of centuries before me. So you could say that in my own very naive third dimensional being, I was like, I discovered something. Hey, we could do that. But that's been practiced. It's just not to avoid earthquakes, but to create them. Around triangles, okay? What do you do about the B6 You get such a protective aspect will create an earthquake. Don't wait for the hard T square to release. The when earthquake naturally happens, okay, there's just land on top of other land, and then for the release, there's a crack. Okay, there's just the land on top of other land, which is the crack. Okay, and then there's the release of the energy. And that if you have conjoining of earth and air, or in the gases and so on, so that he has something explodes. And if you get it at the core of the earth, then you can control for when there's earthquake. You can do it to avoid earthquake and natural disaster. I mean, you could, but nobody does. It's not profitable. So back to this chart of Germany. Pluto will be ingressing to its second house. Neptune is currently at the third house, going into the fourth. Neptune is going to the fourth. Neptune is going to the fourth. The fourth is the sign, it's the land. And Neptune is expansion. I think everybody knows what it means. And it means that the land of Germany expands. But it also has to surrender itself. Like if it sounds a little bit like World War II to you, then I will quote Mark Rutte out of context again. On a small scale, we saw something like this in World War II. Now, will NATO manage to embrace, hug, okay, be it Olaf Scholz or whomever in Germany, and make sure that hug is very tight? I can't guarantee. Nor can Olaf, nor can Germany. Because Neptune has its own course of surrendering to something. Now, is this expansion being Germany a part of NATO? No. It's expansion of armed forces going to faraway places. And no, it's not NATO, it's the land expanding by putting forces on faraway places, like colonies and such. Okay? That's not Olaf Scholz. That's not a German parliament. That's a natal chart that has a voice, and it wants to tell you something. There is expansion of the use of armed forces in faraway places, or hospitals, jails, hotels, okay, remote places. And Neptune means expansion of land as well as surrendering of land. So that can be, that if that sounds like the World War II to you, then, you know, you're not imagining. Scientifically, you're not imagining. Get yourself housing first, independently of ability to work, supportive environment. See if you still think that. I believe you do. And so this chart has a word to tell us. Now let's talk about this Uranus going into Gemini, because Uranus is in the 5th house for Germany. with Venus in Scorpio, and there was a scandal about pedophilia again. Now, let me give you the what was the myth busting article. And the myth busting article was, hey, there was only a law about the fact that if you are trying to stop pedophiles, so of course you will run into snuff films, which means that you're not supposed to get arrested for running into snuff films. But hey, isn't that self-explanatory and not even needed, and probably has been there since like forever? Yeah. So why are we talking about this now? If you were a lawyer of the pedo whisperer, okay, if you were the pedo whisperer cantor, I remind you, in Netherlands, I'm half Dutch. There's this drug lord Tachi, who's from Mokro Mafia. His name rose into fame when he betrayed Peter R. de Vries and murdered him, but by proxy, allegedly, beseder. But he represents himself in what called Marengo process, and he represents himself because he did not find any cantor, any lawyer's office that is not involved in representing a sex offenders. Okay, so of course he would not be represented by the Friezen Spanje nor the Friezen Kassem, but we understand why. But no lawyer of any office was a lawyer that is free from protecting the sex offenders and the sex offenders against children. Why was it important for a drug lord? Because there have been the tendency of Supreme Court judges to put drug lords, perhaps by chance, perhaps not by chance, in jail for hurting children instead of maybe them allegedly. Hence a magma testimonial, which I believe, and I'm allowed to believe, okay, whatever testimonial I want. By the way, Peter R. de Vries, when he looked at the case of Peter Tjeoort, that was when he looked at the cases of putting the wrong guy on murder of children, on pedophilia, in jail, and that was the very beginning of his career. Then he was running into a case, was Peter Tjeoort, his name was Peter, the child name was Peter, and the child was kidnapped, raped, and so on for snuff film, and they didn't manage to solve the case, which I think we all know what's the solution for the case. But it's not only that, the brother of the child, he committed suicide because he was to blame for doing that to his deceased brother. Okay, so now that we get that, the Tachi didn't want to go babysit, we understand something here that happens. Now, if we take that into context, we understand that that discussion, if you were a lawyer defending a pedo, then you would very much want to be reminded of by the entire parliament, for example, that could need representation, that you can apply to say, hey, that person was only trying to stop pedo stuff. Now, this is a genuine loophole, okay? It's a genuine loophole because to stop that, you do need to show for the snuff, okay? So this is genuine. I'm not trying to make job easier for like the devil's advocate. But to get at the pedophilia and the pedo rings, we must understand the phenomenon of satanic ritual abuse and expendable children, and tend to that, and how that is inspired by indigenous societies, human sacrifice, infanticide and femicide, and genital mutilation of both sexes, and tend to that and from the core. So that is something that, and you see that Venus with the midheaven, Uranus on Beta per se, spiking up the discourse, and indeed even the 1200 chart shows us there is a discussion here that can have to do with taboos on sexuality being discussed, or some revolution around taboos on sexuality being discussed at the forefront. Especially with Lilith here. So, and this Venus Sun, Venus is combust, but she's both in Scorpio and combust by the sun. She's burned at the light of the sun. Okay, this is not okay. You could say this is Cazimi. I haven't checked, but this could very well be combustion, and in which case would weaken Venus even more. So this is not a good chart for anything to do with Venusian things. Okay. Relaxation. You know that Germany is considered a very stressed nation. Think about relaxation. That's not really happening, okay, with that Venus. She's constantly transformed, constantly in stress, a psychological stress, and maybe even trauma, and that's a golden dream. Okay, that's literally, and it's since childhood. This is not good also for situation of all things Venus, even when we talk about the food, the cars. Like, this is not actually giving good quality cars for this chart. And Mercury is in Venus sign in the 10th. Mercury Pluto. So this if Germany is known for good car company, it's not for this chart, is what I have to say. Good technology, well, yes and no. It's not like Saturn is blooming in Cancer. I mean, it's not fallen, but it's definitely given us the stress. Neptune in Gemini can be exploitation of child labor. But Mercury is in Spica, which means that there is success in trade, but it can also be child trade. But there is justice, okay? So justice is coming after a while. And indeed, when it was Germany doing the genocide or doing bad things for children, we know about this. When it was other countries, go figure, okay? And figure is a very interesting word in this case. So we have here a point on 22 degrees Leo, the vertex. So vertex is a fated point. Is vertex, okay, vertex point 22 degree. It tells us both of a leader that is executed, trauma of execution, trauma of murder and killing of leaders. Yes, this does not denote like Hitler or anything like that. It just means that, a monarch is owned and loses mandate of the heaven. Okay, it's just fated points for monarchs and leaders to be murdered or to murder. So, yeah. Now let's try to juxtapose on a little bit, because Nato's chart, for example, has Rahu in the 4th house of this chart. That can give us exactly what you think that can give us. And this Rahu this literally meaning Rahu kind of melting NATO into Germany. Okay? Merging. It is exactly what we think that it is. And it is this Germany. And interestingly enough, Rahu of Germany here is same Rahu of chart of Netherlands. And yeah. Rao of Trump is sixth house to this chart. Rahu of Germany for this chart is eighth house to United States chart. This is more okay. If you don't know that Germany has been more of an ally than an enemy in the second and first, at least in the Second World War, then it's no basis to talk about. But this will definitely give you it, and it hasn't changed. Okay, since 1779, it's the same chart. What else do we got here? Lot of fortune, degree safer. Hmm. What else? Chart ascendant of Israel is conjuncting Mercury in the 10th house of Germany. Okay? Midheaven of Israel, 7th house. So again, could be enemies, but could be allies. For Palestine is axis of 3rd house and 9th house. Also Java. Now is the question, how does that merge or not with WEF and WHO? Because if NATO is merging into Germany and Germany is expanding, and we talk about a couple of decades, at least 1.5, 2 decades, when Neptune is going to be in Aries. We don't have chart for the WEF. We don't have chart for the WEF. The 12th house is Sagittarius here, but Jupiter is the first. And Mars is in Sagittarius. As per Donald Trump, he has this Ketu in the 12th house and Rahu in the 6th house for this chart. Now, I guess we are at another episode in the timeline of how can we control the expansion of Germany. It's by Spica. And this Spica with Mercury, expandable children at the Supreme Court. I said what I said. Spica and Andromeda. That's it. Will Germany betray NATO? No. NATO very likely will merge into Germany. The Rao of NATO is in 4th house, Germany. Will headquarters move from Brussels to Germany? I don't know. Could be that they already are, and we don't know. Like, I really don't know. Um, is it good for NATO? No, it's horrible for NATO. It's horrible for NATO. Is an American body. If you watch Mark Rutte channel on YouTube, with the video that is there is favored by United States. It's not aimed, the crowd is not with the people. The crowd is whoever benefits from this, and it is the place to say it, okay? But I'm too exhausted to say it. When I was looking a year and a half, when I was looking at Germany's charts, I saw military expansion. There were a couple of charts. I'm not going to look at all of them right now. This one is good. This one is good enough to send me into like this one is good enough for me to look at the Sinistry of Fruit in Germany. Okay, like I said what I said. I need to like understand this chart. I need to understand this chart. I want to say one thing. This chart messed humanity up more than twice. And especially in Germany. Especially in Germany. This is a chart that is, but the way that it messed Germany up is that the only antidote is to tend to satanic ritual abuse and expendable children. At the Supreme Court. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. And Germany wasn't given Germany. This is not the chart of the Third Reich, okay? This is the initial 1200 chart. That's the motherland that Hitler wanted to go back to. Okay? And in terms of Übermensch, I understand why. But this is a chart you can only undo with one thing and one thing only. Turn to the expendable children. Abolish from the Inuit. It is not for nothing that as I put the Mercury, the open doors, talisman, by Sphere and Sandry, the open doors Mercury in Aldebaran, in Gemini talisman, immediately I was intuiting to put the Inuit. And the Inuit, I learned it from Inuk woman. It's basically two lines going from, it's kind of like almost makeup. Okay, you go from the corner of the eye back into the forehead a little bit up, and it's supposed to raise your frequency and clear your eyesight. And the other one had to do with femininity, but this is similar as becoming a woman, and well, I don't do it in public. I do it just like for myself, every now and then, and as Sedna reverence, as Inuit reverence, okay, but don't you be fooled to think that this is a change that Germany must go in itself, or humanity must win like the Western capitalist world, colonialist world. No. This is going back to the Inuits, stopping infanticide, stopping femicide, stopping incest. Curating, because that curating life energy of Inuit tribes is holding yin for entire society, because we are all Inuit. But that being said, we shouldn't wait for the Inuit to do it. We should all tend to our own lineage and our own people and peoples to do that. That's the only antidote. You cannot stop this. It will perpetuate every now and then. It will perpetuate every now and then until this stops. And only when you tend to that can you get out of this chart effectively. Before Nazi Germany, there were 300 years, an entire political cycle of war on German land, not by Germans, okay? Countries fighting other countries on German land, raping women, exploiting people, doing horrible things. And the Hitler Reich, okay, the Hitler Reich regime, and the molding of the German, of anybody that was left on this land, into something that was intensely traumatic. Okay, you think State of Israel level of traumatic, and you think Palestine level of traumatic, and you think Syria level of traumatic, and not to mention Congo. Okay, that we should all be having way more eyes on Congo, and really, and on the Inuit. Okay, so the only antidote, because this is Spica, justice, Mercury, children, trade, court, 10th house, Supreme Court, Venus, Scorpio, okay, something taboo, something with sexuality, bad looking court, bad looking Supreme Court. This is going to be court for entire world. Okay, but then ICC, beyond ICC. And every time it's going there, and the more we relax our standards around pedophilia and rape and this, it's going there. And the more we bring back ourselves to our senses, okay, whether it's women being able to have a bank account, whether it's rights for children and attempts to abolish child labor, whether it's awareness to satanic abuse, okay, the more we are doing that, the more it diminishes this expansion, gets its all hold, its expansion. But Neptune is destined to make it a pandemic until we pay attention and we deal with that, just like holistic healing, just like the Sedna story. And it's abuse by, it's not just abuse by position of power. Those who are in position of power are those children that were abused. And Andromeda constellation is for returning kidnapped, for magically, okay, for reconciliation, whenever there was cheating, betrayal, and you need, when you want to save people from being sexpionage, you really need to change your whole view about the people. If I take for the testimony of Eliza, she was sexpionage for USSR. She was taken from her father, who was a hero of the nation, and she was taken to a military academy. And her father thought she was going to do something great for the nation. He wasn't told anything. She got raped repetitively until she had to be making one of the people fall in love with her, so that she would be raped only by him and mitigate the rape. Okay, and that's how she learned to be sexpionage and to have sex without love. And then she was sent on missions. Now, her parents, when they heard of what happened to her, they thought she was a whore, and they didn't understand that this was what was done to her, that this is what is called, and this is sexpionage, and that is the military academic institution that she was sent to. She has still today no contact with her father, because she thinks she's a whore. And so same with men who would later be thought of as gays, or as I don't know what, for not being able to have like normal intimate relations. Even Hans Medma, that according to his testimony saved his wife from Supreme Court Juris de Mink, Supreme Court Judge Juris de Mink, back when Juris de Mink, I think before the Supreme Court, because back when he was like abused very likely, but also abusing people, and had to do snuff films of people, which means recording people being raped, torturing them, and so on. And according to Hans Ahmed, the Supreme Court role is basically a mole. It's an intelligence role, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, so handsome Adama was forcibly wed. He was tortured. He was electrocuted. He was forcibly hospitalized, and he got his semen excreted from him by force, by rape, and then he was castrated. He managed to escape with his wife to another location and begins to try. Netherlands prohibits him and takes his nationality. Okay, he still thinks in his testimony why his wife denied him sex, because she was like, oh, she's having sex with everyone, why would not me? And because when this espionage programmed, okay, they can they are in those situations when they are basically they are raped. They don't have ability to have sex, and this is both true to men and to women. um, and so all that we think about sexuality must be revised to recover and reconcile for these people into society, and and recover their ability to even be present in their own body, let alone comfortable in their own sensuality, and so on and so forth. So that is something we all need to understand. The torturing is not done to get information out of them. The torturing is done to make them forget for the information that they gave, which tells you, okay, just logically think of what this entire thing is, and this has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, Israeli teams of intelligence, when I was in high school, they came to lecture us for intelligence, and they told us that Israeli people developed methods to get information out of people with zero torture and zero abuse. And that's kind of like, it's very simple. You give a person a place to speak and you regain trust, and you actually stand for that trust. Okay, you gain trust, you stand for that trust, and you provide them protection. Then they speak out, and most people are eager to speak. And intelligence is supposed to be something that facilitates peace amongst nations and avoids war. But you understand that that's not how it's done. And Israel tried to market that to UK, where they say, no, we are okay with torture. But it's not, unfortunately, no longer the way Israel is doing intelligence for many parts. And 7th of October is proof to that. There could be no infiltration of Israel by anyone, of Israeli intelligence by anyone, had not for MK Ultra like or espionage-like projects. And this is undermining not only our intelligence, but also state security, credit score, human health, okay, healthcare system, and the very basis of every nation in the world. So that is something that if we tend to that, we got the antidote for that. If we don't tend to that, we ain't got the antidote for that. And it won't the way in which the Peter Ring exposure is kind of taking the children hostages in political agenda. It's kind of like, vote blue because they are pedophiles, vote red because they are pedophiles. Okay, and that, that's why it doesn't stick. Okay, that's why none of that sticks, because you don't tend to the expandable children and abolition of this practice, and you don't tend to this espionage and abolishing of torture, and the problem just persists. Okay, the problem just persists. And then you run from sex with women is gay to whatnot, and that is something we talked about, the Trump+Musk. That would be like, if they tend to that, they manage to get a hold of this giant Germany thing. Because even back in the Second World War, yes, it's true that they were allies, but definitely Germany did somewhat expand. Okay, it got a little bit out of control. Okay, with his allies. So, at least on a leader level, okay, with those who profit of it maybe profit of it, but their life is not so good. And I addressed what holistically happens to the body and mind, and how that affects us, however reptilian people think they are. Israeli as well, so we are not allowed to have DNA tests, which may mean we are all have reptile DNA. Like who knows, right? So that is something I would highly take into consideration. There would be no stopping of this giant Germany expansion without tending to that. Um, and it's not for nothing that the Mengele experiments were addressed, and the Mengele twins, okay, which you absolutely see here in this 1200 chart, okay. Um, but also the thought that we could push a button on the off and hold of this type of atrocities and it will not go out of handle is also not compatible with the spirit of the times. Just to say that, and be very clear about it. Pluto in the sign of all humanity, Neptune in the sign of oneness, okay, the already oneness. Aries is oneness. At most it is tolerance. It is not okay. So union of oneness. Okay, and the Uranus in the sign of civil war, children, unusual technological stuff to do with children, trading children, and so on and so forth. So on a global level, and Sedna is in Gemini, so on a global level, it's like either we tend to Sedna and we give reverence to Sedna, not just by placing a calm, but by actually abolishing for these type of Sedna stories where we did not have place for childhood or for the free woman or man in the tribe, and that caused highest suicide rates in the world until today, depletion of food, invasion, what we call colonialism, and many other troubles. Okay, so Second World War is a great example how yin depletion leads to yang depletion, which indeed we saw when 2 generations of men died before a woman could open a bank account that was her own. That's very simply put. Okay, like it's more, there's no more Uranus in Taurus than that, and that was a schedule. Okay, that this displacement of society was allowed by the mistreat of women, children, the elderly, the sick, the disabled, and this is true since the Inuit. It's true since the Inuit. Any tribe that gets that and applies that is less susceptible to invasion. Any tribe that doesn't get that and doesn't apply that, where they are the biggest nation in the world or the smallest tribe in the world, suffers. So and this Sedna has entered the sign of Rahu for Donald Trump. So this is information that for sure knows and for sure has good opportunities to utilize in his favor, because that's opening up a cycle of 12 millennia for basically for entire humanity, not only in this planet but on all other planets. Esper, leader of Nato, Mark Rutte. Let's see. He has ascendant Virgo, which is ruled by this Mercury. Stellium in Pisces, which would be here 3rd house, and ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in 7th house. Mars 0 degrees Scorpio here in the 11th house, and Moon with the Rahu of with the Rahu of Nato. The Mars here is actually not bad. It's actually, yes, this Mars for this chart is actually not bad. So the usual things, okay, applying to Spica, applying to Procyon, sweetening the verdict, applying to Andromeda, the usual things that they're supposed to be working. What else? This was Mars, all these giants. Yeah. So having a Rahu moon is something that NATO with Rutte bring to Germany. They bring to Germany together a Rahu moon with the synastry, and that can have good effects. Um, yes, I think, but forsake forsake for that to not kind of like melt away with Neptune, because that means that Neptune in kind of a decade and a half will go over the Rahu of NATO. Um, yeah. So again, Andromeda here is very relevant. Um, also to remediate for this Mars for Germany. And Spica. Okay, Spica. Plenty of Spica. Okay, I would prescribe plenty of Spica for this chart. Rahu close to Sirius. Again, Sirius, a lot of people associate Sirius with violence. Sirius is not, when you work with it magically, it's not about violence. It's actually a part of the Orion belt, which is originating of a lot of diversity. And Sirius can be a great peacemaker because it doesn't really belong anywhere, but it doesn't really don't belong anywhere. It is the type of, like, if you put all the people that don't belong together, then Sirius is the one that doesn't belong even there. So but when it is outside for where it belongs, it might feel more belonging to where it was belonging. Okay, it's kind of like that. So there is something very interesting about this Sirius. The good thing about Sirius is that it will not just take any cult. Okay, now the violence associated with being the dog star, okay, like work magically. The fact that the cult, the hermaphrodite cults, invert everything good to something not good is their attempt to control humanity. Just work directly, okay? The head of Satan, okay, the snake goddess that everybody sacrificed the children of satanic ritual abuse to, okay? That deity, when I asked that deity, hey, what do we do to abolish satanic ritual abuse, I got all the answers. Doesn't need that. Like, grow some hibiscus. That's I'll go better per se for you. Okay? So humanity was thinking in other terms, and if it saw that it takes a lot of, I don't know, it creates bodies upon bodies, so it decided to give some, let's say to give 100 bodies so that wouldn't be millions. That did not work for Stalin. Okay? But what does work is to apply to it magically and to change for the way we think about people that went through rape, that people that we think are psychotic, to be allowing, give place to sensuality, to willing consent, okay, to do the antidotes, and then we actually get results. Everything that needs to rise up to be purged, rises up to be purged, but then we actually get results, and the results is wealth. So everybody that tries to sacrifice a ton of bodies upon bodies to get some wealth, but then they change the currency, and they expand the heads, and they offer the heads, and the this and the that. Okay, losing one's head is not just the French Revolution. It's not just putting the sign of the guillotine. Okay, it's Pluto guillotine. It's not just the guillotine, but it's also better per se. So, and then Uranus will go, into Gemini, and conjoin Sedna, and we will know never before known to humanity about Sedna, which is both exciting and frightening because she's associated with the betrayal of betrayals. It's kind of like, think about these children that are in those rituals. Think about these women that are being, they didn't want to marry a person. It's like when they were still a child, or they were not happy in the marriage, or they would be raped in the marriage, okay? And they're burned in the once forests, now deserts, okay? Because that's what happens when you do that. The place becomes a desert. Europe is going through desertification. Did you know that? No, desertification, becoming desert. Whereas the place that was desert, okay, towards the Middle East, is becoming a blooming forest. Why? Because we can cry all we wanted about the occupations out there. It mitigated a little bit the femicide and the infanticide. A tiny little bit. Relative to where it should be, not at all. And the more that changed, that allowed for 7th of October and the invasion to both Israel and Gaza. United States has its eyes on Egypt. So this is new Egypt is USA. Why? Because they're running out of water. Or the Mormons. Because if you build a half moon in Sedona, you're going to have a forest. If you build it on Mars, you're going to have a forest. But if you do it with slavery, you're going to have the Sahara. They can't even build with that sand. I'm not joking. Not joking. And I'll end with that.